Okay, so in question 6, we're given a trick that is going to make it really easy for us to figure out the squares of two-digit numbers. But let's find out why it works. So, for example, here in the first example they give us is working out 23 squared. So they tell us to round the first factor, 23, down to 20. And then that 3 gets added to the other 23. So instead we're multiplying, instead of multiplying 23 by 23, we're multiplying 20 by 26. Plus we're adding 9, which is 3 squared. So you're probably wondering, where does that 3 squared come from? So you can work out the rest of these by yourself. You can give them a try and see that you get the numbers right. But let's find out what's really going on here. Why is this method working? And where does that extra 3 squared come from? Okay, so let's start with a square. The first number in part A that they're asking us to work with is 19 squared. So, what's a nice multiple of 10 that's close to 19 that we want to work with? I'm thinking 20. 20 is only 1 away from 19. So, in order to get there, we would be adding 1 to 19 for one side, and then for the other side, we'd have to subtract 1 from 19 to make up for that. So let's see how this works visually. So right now, the square is 19 on the one side and 19 on the other side, and I'm going to take away 1 unit, one of those 19 units. So I'm thinking somewhere around here if I take away this much. So I'm just going to go ahead and chop that right off. I'm going to take it off of that square. I'm going to flip it vertically, and I'm going to attach it to the other side. I'm going to align it just like that. So there we go. Okay, so now the vertical side is no longer 19 in length. It's only 18. And what about horizontally? We've added 1, so now this side is 20. So, is everything accounted for? No. What is missing here? Well, it's this little square right here. And what are the dimensions of that? Well, I subtracted 1 unit on this side, and I know that I added 1 unit on the other side, so the dimensions of that square are 1 times 1, which is 1. And that's where that third component comes from. So when you think about it, we are, instead of multiplying 2 equal sides together, instead of finding the area of a square, we are now finding the area of this rectangle, and we're adding the area of this little square here. So instead of saying 19 times 19, we are instead going to write 18 times 20. And we're going to add the area of that little square there, which is 1. And this is a lot easier to work out now. What's 18 times 20? That's 360 if I'm not mistaken. And we are adding 1. So the final product is 361. And if you check on your calculator what 19 times 19 is directly, you will find that it's the same thing. Okay, let's try another example just to make sure that we get it completely. So now we've got a 31 by 31 square. And what is the number that is close to 31 that's a multiple of 10? Well, I think 30. So 30 minus 1 is equal to 30. Okay, so now we've got 31 on each side, and we want to remove 1 unit on one side in order to get to 30. So it's just going to be a little sliver over here, just like that. And I'm going to take that chunk right out. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to tack it onto the other side. Whoops. Just like that. Okay, so now my vertical side is no longer 31 units. It is only 30 units, while on the other side here, I have gained 1 unit right there. So plus 1. And that makes this side 32 in length. And once again, I have this tiny little square here that's been added. And what are the dimensions of that square? Well, I know that this dimension was 1, and I also gained 1 over here. So 1 times 1 is an area of 1. So what has happened here? I started off multiplying 31 by 31, and I modified it into a rectangle of dimensions 30 times 32, and I have to add this little square with an area of 1. And what do I get now? Now it's much easier to multiply 30 by 32. And what does that come to? 960, if I'm not mistaken. And I have to add 1. And altogether that comes to 961. And if I'm going to check on my calculator whether that's correct directly, 31 times 31. We've done it once again. The answer is indeed 961.